Hey, folks, welcome to today's podcast. This being the Concealed Carry Podcast, episode 414. We'll kick it off officially with the recorded audio part of the show momentarily. That's probably a notification on Matthew's phone.
Yeah.
Did it?
Reminded me to turn it off.
It's pretty funny, you know, when you're the one that's actually going live and you get the notification to tell you you're going live.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, and I got a notification: DOJ dropped case against Michael Flynn.
Yeah. Yeah. Today we're talking about the Ahmaud Arbery shooting in Brunswick, Georgia. So, yeah, this is a controversial one for sure. Our intent is to approach this from the perspective of what do we know, and based on what we currently know, what can we learn from it? That is the meat of today's podcast. All right. I will make it clear up front. I'll probably say this again when we start the recorded part of the show, that the intent is not to go down the road of racial prejudices or racism or anything like that. We don't know intent based on that stuff. It's certainly suspicious, but we can have our suspicions and our personal beliefs, but we're going to stay focused on the facts as we know them and as we can actually see. We're going to share live during the recording here today. We're going to share the video that has been, kind of going all over the place, making the internet rounds. We'll go through that step by step even. So, plus, just today, I believe there was some 911 audio released, which provides some, a little more context. Not a ton more, but a little bit. So we'll be sharing that in the podcast here today. So, how's everybody doing out there? Hello, Tony, Mark, Michael, David, Gary. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you guys for being here. Hola, isn't that, you just called this dude like a senior citizen, as opposed to a senor.
Yeah.
Just teasing. All right. So, yeah, I got a good crowd coming in. If you guys want to know about Ahmaud Arbery, this is the place to be. We actually got a request from a podcast listener that reached out to us and asked if we would cover this, and a couple other messages have come in, I think maybe just through some comments and stuff on our social media, wondering about this. And so, in fact, the actual request was that he said, I told myself if anybody could talk about it, it would be concealedcarry.com. Thanks a million for all you do.
Wow.
So
awesome, man.
I didn't actually see the name that was associated with that message that came in, but thank you very much if you happen to be listening to this live feed right now. So, it's kind of an intent to probably talk about this case at some point anyway, but, due to the current relevance of it and the attention it's getting, and the fact that everybody's wondering about it, well, all right, we'll hit on it. Another topic, by the way, I just want people to know we're not forgetting about it or not unaware of it, and this will probably be discussed in the near future as well, is about the recent weapons bans in Canada after that terrible mass shooting they had up there. And, knee-jerk reaction, they've immediately decided to ban whole classes of weapons, and it's sad. I follow some. In fact, I'm actually a member. I don't know if you know this, Matthew, but I'm a member in I think it's 2 Canadian gun groups. Just because I kind of like to hear their perspective on things and what's on their minds and the stuff the Canadians are talking about. And of course, they're always, hoping to be able to increase their gun ownership rights and laws, as far as the ability to own guns or carry guns or even defend themselves, more like we can here in the States. And this latest thing has been a huge step back for them. So really sad to see that.
Yeah. I didn't know that you were, but it makes sense. You like to stay engaged with the broad spectrum of people, so that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Well, let's kick off the recorded part of the show here, guys. Thanks for being here. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1. This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, episode number 414. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network. I am your host, Riley Bowman, joined today by Matthew Maruster.
Once again, how you doing, man?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me do the show with you. Actually, Matthew stepped in a little bit kind of last minute. We were going to do it with Jacob today, and then Jacob decided he needed to step back to take care of some business stuff. So that's the way it goes sometimes, and that's why we have a team of 3 here that regularly hold down the fort. So, guys, today's episode, we're going to address this whole Ahmaud Arbery shooting case out of Brunswick, Georgia. It looks like things are moving forward towards certainly a more full-blown investigation, perhaps indictments. We'll just kind of have to see how that all plays out. Our intent today, based on quite a bit of viewer and listener demand, is to only talk about what we currently know about this case, to stay away as much as possible from speculation, just to simply talk about the facts as we currently know them, and what we can learn from it. Because I do think that mostly because there's been recently some video released about the actual incident itself, it doesn't give us the whole picture, and the cameraman that provided the video, frankly, kind of, he stinks at running a camera at times. So it's a bit shaky and whatnot, but it does provide some context. And so having reviewed everything, looking it over, Matthew and I have discussed it. We feel like there's enough here to at least talk about it, what we can see, what we know, and what lessons can we glean from this situation. And I do think that there's some key lessons to be learned. And then, of course, if there's updates in the case or more details are learned or whatever, we'll try to keep you apprised of those in the future as they come to light. Today's episode is brought to you by, and sponsored by even, CCW Safe. We are proud partners of CCW Safe. If you ever find yourself dealing with the aftermath of a self-defense shooting, are you dealing with it alone? Or do you have someone working through it with you that's been there, done that before? This is the kind of reassurance you get by being a member of CCW Safe. Learn more at, I was going to say concealed carry something. Learn more at ccwsafe.com. That's the problem I have when I say www.concealedcarry.com all the time. ccwsafe.com is the place to check them out. All right, guys. So, and I'll tell you, that's one of the big things that's drawn me to them, is that all of the principals, the head guys involved in this company, have at some point or another been involved in all aspects of similar cases, of shooting cases, whether they've been the one that's pulled the trigger, whether they've been the one that's investigated shootings, or been an attorney representing and helping fight for someone's innocence. So that is the experience and the expertise that is brought to the table when you are a member of CCW Safe, ccwsafe.com. Also, today's episode made possible by Guardian Nation. And Guardian Nation is the place for serious practitioners of the defensive gun. Training content, products, discounts, special events. And the cool thing is also that Guardian Nation members get a discount off of CCW Safe. In fact, you're going to save, I think it's 20% off by being a member of Guardian Nation and then also joining and becoming a member of CCW Safe. I think both are worthwhile. To learn more about Guardian Nation and to consider joining for a free, no-commitment 14-day trial, do so at concealedcarry.com/14day1 4DAY. And as our sponsors for today's episode, making it all possible, guys, your continued support of us and our sponsors makes this possible, this very thing right here, right now, that we are able to do and discuss and produce this podcast. And so here we are. Let's get into it.
That's
Matthew, when did you first hear about this Ahmaud Arbery case? Just
all right.
be honest on it.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I heard about it over the past couple days, and I didn't pay much attention to it because I had been so busy with this move and everything going on. So I had stayed, out of all of that. Today, when you said, "Hey, we're going to talk about this," I read a couple articles real to get the lowdown, watch a little video that shows the incident going down, to kind of familiarize myself with what we're going to be talking about. But it's one of those things where everybody's talking about it, and it blows up into this huge media thing, and everybody's taken a side pretty much already, right? Within the first couple minutes of it breaking, you pretty much find yourself on one side or the other of this, right? And so people are very heated about it, and I was glad that you kind of mentioned that we were going to talk about it today. I thought it was a good topic.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I just have heard about this in the last couple of days, and the crazy thing is, this happened like 2 months ago, or a while. I think it was back in February. So, in fact, what was the exact date? Let's just take a quick look. It should tell me here in the news story I'm looking at, February 23rd. Okay, so it's actually a Sunday. So it's a Sunday afternoon, just a little bit after 1 p.m. February 23rd. So yeah, it's actually a little bit more than 2 months old of a story. And that was a bit surprising to me, is it's like, wow, we're just hearing about this now, but we've been so focused, the media and everything, all that attention has been focused on coronavirus and COVID-19. And now this is just coming to light. And part of the reason this is really coming to light in a big way in the recent day or so is that video has now come out of the incident. And it's not the greatest video. It's obviously taken on a cell phone camera in a vertical orientation, which is fine. It works fine for the situation. The cameraman is not doing a great job, and in fact, I see Mark, I think, made this comment, but my understanding is that this video was taken by a third individual that was kind of involved in the as far as the chasing down part of this story. There's several stories where it talks about the two main individuals involved, meaning on the shooting side of the equation, you have basically a father and a son. The father, I think his name is Gregory, or Jeffrey. Hold on, what was that? Jeffrey or Gregory? I think it's Gregory.
Mix something.
Yep, Gregory McMichael is the father. He's 64 years old, and the son is Travis McMichael, 34 years old, and then it's several news reports that talk about a third man that was kind of he jumped in at some point to help. And basically, here's kind of the rough context, is that these guys. Apparently there's a history of some kind of breaking in or robbery or something in this neighborhood. It's actually my understanding is a gated neighborhood, a gated community. And if I remember correctly, Ahmaud Arbery lived in the area. I think it said with his mom or his aunt or somebody. Where was that part of the story? Do you recall, Matthew?
I don't.
Let's see. I'm just trying to. I know I read that somewhere where he lived, and I thought he lived kind of in the area. I mean, he's going for a jog. He's going for a run. So I mean, it's not like he's gone way out of his way to just go run through some random gated community, right? So, point is, he's running through the neighborhood. These guys, knowing that there's been some kind of burglary activity taking place or trespassing activity, and they state actually in also a recently released 911 call that this is an ongoing thing, that is something that's just been going on, that there's been some surveillance video that's captured somebody. Wow, fighter jet just flew over my house. That's what we get when we're not too far anyway from Buckley Air Force Base. So where was I?
He
I
lived
get
in-
excited when I hear fighter jets. By the way,
He lived about a block away, in
Thank you.
Ahmaud, and he was not unfamiliar with the area. He knew
So I
the
mean,
area and stuff.
this is his neighborhood too.
Right, exactly.
which is the crazy thing. I was talking about how apparently somebody had caught on camera at night or something, somebody going into houses, or particularly what's mentioned in the phone call is there's a house under construction, some kind of construction site in the area. It said it's about 500 feet from the McMichaels home. And they had seen somebody in and out of there or something, and they thought it might be this Ahmaud Arbery guy. All right, so that's what leads us up to this moment, is they see this man that they believe matches the description of this supposed criminal activity going on in the neighborhood. Now, again, I don't have a lot of details about that. That's why I say supposed and all this stuff, right? So they see man running through the neighborhood on this Sunday afternoon, going for a jog, and they're like, that must be him. And they decide to go chase after him. Right? It actually says in one article here, I don't know if this came from a statement or where this came from, but basically, like the dad said to the son, or the son said to the dad. I've lost that exact part of the story here, but they decided. They actually said let's grab our stuff. Let's go and talk to this guy. They grabbed their guns because it said they didn't know whether he would be armed or not. Which is just kind of it's always a weird thing for me to hear. And I don't know if this is just the way it's reported or if this is literally what these guys said. But it's I carry a gun all the time, 100% of the time, every day. It's just normal. Not because I walk around suspecting everybody I meet, well, he might be carrying a gun. Just that's my modus operandi, my MO, that's just the standard operation procedure. For me, right? And so apparently, though, these guys made it a point, at least according to how it was reported, that we're going to go confront this man, and he could be carrying a gun, or a weapon, so we better take our guns, right? Okay, whatever. But here's the thing: they take a .357 revolver. Apparently, that's a sidearm that Gregory, the father, is carrying, and the son, Travis, takes a shotgun. Right, so in the shotgun, they're riding around in a pickup truck, and even when Travis gets out of the pickup truck, he's standing there openly with this shotgun, basically at the ready, right? So that's kind of that's the context of sort of how we get to this critical moment. Matthew, what would you like to add, and also kind of feel free to take it from there if you'd like. And of course, we have video and stuff that we'll be playing back and all that as well.
Right. And so basically you're describing what we know from the statements from, the people that we're pursuing. Obviously, we don't know what was in Ahmaud Arbery's mind or what was going on. So if it seems like we're only telling one side of the story, that's the side of the story we have right now, right, as far as what we can see. And then we'll kind of dig into what objectively we pull from that. But at this point, they're pursuing him. They block the road. And they're in front of him, and they block the road. He's still running. Ahmaud is still jogging, running. It's probably should be noted that he's wearing a t-shirt and shorts. He's not carrying a bag. He's not on a bike. He doesn't have tools in his hands. It's probably not something that, if you're out trying to burglarize something, you're probably gonna have a backpack or something to take things with, or bolt cutters, stuff like that, right?
He literally he looks like he's a person out for a run.
Correct. Exactly. And
shorts, t-shirt, running shoes. Yeah, you're exactly right in describing it that way.
Yeah, and so I mentioned they blocked the road, and it seems like, and we'll go over the video, it seems like he tries to get around the vehicle. He doesn't want any confrontation with these guys. As he comes around the front of the vehicle, passing the vehicle, he takes a turn towards the one gentleman with the gun, with the shotgun. Mm-hmm. And a fight, a scuffle ensues over possession of the fire of that shotgun. Yeah. A round is immediately fired from the shotgun.
Well, Well, hold on a minute. Let's go ahead and if we're going to go into that,
Yeah.
let's actually do that as we play back the video because, and actually before we actually get to the video, I think it's relevant to play the 911 call audio because that's actually like leading up to the actual incident itself. But I just think if we're gonna go into the details of what happens, let's listen to and then let's watch what happens and so here is I'm gonna share with you folks the 911 audio. I just got to get it pulled up here. Here we go. All right. So here is the 911 call. There's actually two calls here. The first call is that initial, hey, we see somebody run into the neighborhood. We think it's related to these break-ins that have been occurring. And that's basically the extent of that call. And the second one sounds like a different voice, and I believe this is the father. I think the first one was actually the son. I could be wrong in that, but that's just kind of how it sounds to me. And so the second call is just moments or seconds before the actual shooting happens. We don't hear the shooting in the call, but it's right there.
Hello?
Oh, decided to buffer. Let me try refreshing this. Stand by. All right.
Brunswick Communications Operator Smith.
Hey, I'm about to steal a sword.
Okay.
Break-ins out here. There's a guy in the house right now. It's a house under construction.
Okay, do you have your address or that house's address?
Oh, sorry about that.
Right at 219 or 220 Priscilla Drive.
And you said someone's breaking into it right now?
No, it's all open. It's under construction. And he's running right now. There he goes right now.
Okay, what is he doing?
He's running down the street. Tall street.
Okay.
Back into here.
Okay, that's fine. I'll get them out there. I just need to know what he was doing wrong. Was he just on the premises and not supposed to be?
Stuff on it. And he's been caught on the camera a bunch before at night. It's kind of an ongoing thing out here. The man that's building the house has got heart issues. I think he's not going to finish it. So.
Okay, that's fine. And you said it was a male in a black t-shirt?
A white t-shirt. Black guy, white t-shirt. And he's done running back into the neighborhood.
Okay, and...
Up front yard. Hello.
All right, so I'm going to pause it right there because that's the end of the first call. So the first call, again, it's basically, there's been these break-ins, been this thing that's been going on. We caught somebody on camera. And by this point, you could tell by the way, again, I think this is Travis that's talking. I don't know for sure, but whoever this is, you can tell they've basically already made the determination. They believe that this black male, who is Ahmaud Arbery running through the neighborhood, is the same person as whoever's been doing these break-ins. And then he talks about this construction site, this house or whatever that's under construction, because apparently I saw somebody in there, and so he's connecting the dots that he thinks it's that Ahmaud is this person. Okay, so that just kind of don't misconstrue anything of what we're saying about this incident today on the podcast. I'm just painting the picture of, I think, kind of how this is being perceived by the actors involved. All right, and you can hear that in his own language. He says he very distinctly says whoever this is running the neighborhood. He is connecting that dot to whoever he thinks this is the person that's been responsible for these break-ins or whatnot. All right, so here's the second phone call.
911 was to address the emergency.
I'm out here at Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
Satilla, where at Satilla Shores?
I don't know what street we're on. Stop! What's that? Is it? Stop! Travis!
Sir, hello, sir. Sir, where you at?
And that's basically it. So I'm going to go ahead and just stop it there, because we lose the call, we drop the call. I mean, the context we hear here is this is clearly, this sounds like it's outside the home. I mean, he sees the man, right? So I think the first call was probably placed from whoever, when they were probably seeing this through the window, or from at least from their property. Now we're leading again up to probably moments or seconds before the altercation actually takes place. And we hear the stop that right there. And then it is believed that one of the next things that's said is that he says Travis, which is the name of the son. And then that's it. Like, basically just it goes dead. So we don't hear anything else after that from the caller, whether the call just dropped or what. But so that is those 911 calls. So that kind of sets that context of the 911 calls that came in. That's obviously the same information that police are receiving, right? So that's being, that eventually that's being filtered down to the responding police officers, and that's where we are now. I must address something really quick. Comment from Matt says he finds it strange we're talking about this without knowing all the facts. And I will just respond by saying that it's true we don't know all the facts, but the reason why we're talking about it is because one, a lot of requests from podcast listeners, which I'll be honest with you, we didn't get as many requests from listeners to talk about Duncan Lemp, all right, which is something else that Matt brings up here in his comment. The other thing is, in contrasting it with that other kind of controversial case, is that this one we actually do know some things, and the intent of today's episode is to talk about what we know. And what we know is that we have a video of this incident. We have 911 calls of this incident. We have some early kind of a witness statements and other contextual information. I don't know. I haven't verified all the sources, all this information. But we have far more about this incident than we do of, say, the Duncan Lemp incident, okay? And so, and again, I've made it clear that we're only going to talk about what we do know, because I felt like in what we know, there's enough for us to draw some. It's not about this. The intent of this episode is not to make a determination necessarily of what exactly happened and who's guilty necessarily. This is more about what lessons can we draw from this, and there are some distinct lessons that we can pull out of this because of what's come out. All right, so Matthew, you start talking about the incident. Why don't you give some of that same commentary as I now run the video, and then after we let this run through and watch this together, then we'll step through this kind of frame by frame. Does that sound good?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so I'll cue this up here. Stand by, and here it comes. So take it away.
So we're at the point where the person in the back is following Ahmaud. You see him running. He's in the left lane, and you see the other truck with, I think it's Travis with the shotgun. Ahmaud veers to the right. Looks like he's trying to avoid them to go around the truck. As he goes around the truck, it looks like Travis closed the distance and stepped in front of the truck, kind of closing the distance between them. Ahmaud turns and runs towards Travis. At that point, it's difficult to see exactly when the shot was fired, but we kind of, when we look at it together, you can kind of see they're about arm's length distance away, maybe 4 or 5 feet away from each other at the most. Because they're both in front of that vehicle. A shot from the shotgun is fired. They believe, I think from the investigation, that went through one of Ahmaud's hands. And so he is hit initially. A fight ensues over the shotgun. They're wrestling over the shotgun, both standing up. Another shot is fired as they move across that left lane into kind of off to the berm, the shoulder there. A shot is fired. It doesn't look like it strikes him because Ahmaud, because you can see kind of that blast going through the air. So it looks like a lot of that would have been blocked by Ahmaud if he had been hit by that second shot. But I don't know. It's kind of speculation by looking at the video. And then you see Ahmaud. They're struggling over the shotgun. Ahmaud lands a couple punches to Travis's head as they're still struggling over the shotgun. The shotgun is then fired one more time, hits Ahmaud in his left kind of abdomen area, you can see, or maybe lower chest. And they kind of break contact there, and then Ahmaud stumbles and he falls to the ground. That was a fatal shot. So without looking at this, for me, here's the thing. If you want me to pick a side and say this is a clear-cut case of this or that, that's not my job. I'm not going to do that right now. What I want to do is talk about the incident as it unfolded, because it could be you are the runner or you are the pursuer, because we have lots of people that pursue people, right? We have a lot of carriers that say, I'm not going to let someone break into my truck. I'm going to go out and confront them. So we get a lot of people on both sides of this, not agreeing with both sides. I'm saying you could find yourself on one side or the other, right? So I'm not going to put my mind into, or myself in either one of these shoes and say this is exactly what happened. But what I can say is that if somebody if I'm on a run and I'm confronted by people with guns blocking the road, I think it's safe to say that I should fear for my safety, right? I think that's reasonable, and I think Ahmaud had a totally justified feeling that this is not going to go well, right? I'm not armed. These guys have blocked the road. They're pursuing me. I'm trying to go around them, and this guy has a firearm, and now he's closing the distance, right?
Yep.
And I think that's totally justified. Now, if I take away all the pursuing part of this, which is obviously a very bad idea on so many different levels of these guys pursuing, whatever their motivation was, whether it was racially, whether it was their vigilantes, whatever it was, if you take that away and you just go to the moment where Ahmaud turns left and they kind of go into the scuffle over the shotgun, you can make an argument that this person is attacking me and trying to disarm me. Now, I'm not saying, before everybody jumps and says, oh, what about this? They shouldn't have pursued. I'm not talking about the pursuit. I'm saying at the moment when that first shot was fired, is it reasonable that this person could say, hey, we wanted to stop this guy and talk. Yes, I had a firearm on me and he attacked me. There's a lot of people that, if this video wasn't there and it wasn't a racially charged thing, would say, well, if I'm walking down the street and somebody comes at me and tries to take my gun away from me, I'm going to shoot him. So they could immediately jump into that mindset. So all I'm saying is that, the video to me doesn't really show, it doesn't paint the whole picture. I think it paints a very good picture of Ahmaud trying to avoid this situation. But I'm short of, going and being able to examine exactly where everybody was and everything. I'm not going to make a determination on the legalities of, the statutes and all that. Were they, able to pursue and commit a citizen's arrest on this case or not? It's really not the point of this analyzing this video, at least in my mind.
Well, all right. So let's step through it now, though. Okay. I appreciate all the analysis there, Matthew, but I do want to kind of go through this step by step, pausing as we go. So and again, you talked about a lot of this, but let's just step through it. Again, one of the earliest times we recognize Ahmaud on the street here running. As you pointed out, he's actually on the far left of this road as we view it from the camera. Now, folks, for those of you that only listening to the audio version of the podcast, I know this is somewhat difficult and awkward, since we're talking about video that we're viewing or watching or sharing and stepping through, and that's difficult if you're listening only. And so we're doing our best, and we will do our best to describe what we're looking at as we go through this for your benefit, but also it may be good for you to go ahead and consider watching this podcast as well, which you can find on our YouTube channel, episode 414, or also on our Facebook live stream, and just looking at our Facebook page and finding our videos, our live videos. And so, because you may want to at some point, maybe you're on the road driving and you listen to this first, then you can go back and kind of watch this with us as well. So all right, so here's the thing. I'm going to first address, though, before I get too far along, Matthew, this idea of the citizen's arrest is coming up. I don't know for sure about every state because, while I may understand certain use of force, deadly force, property related stuff to some extent for a lot of different states, I'm not so educated to the specifics of citizens arrests in every state or even in a lot of states necessarily, but it can be a very nuanced part of the law as far as little nuances from state to state to state as far as when is a citizen's arrest permissible, what requirements, what conditions have to be in place or have to be met in order for a citizen to effect a citizen's arrest. What I could say and you can tell me too about Ohio, Matthew, if you have experience there, or about California, where you also used to live, or any other state that you know about. But in Colorado, to effect a citizen's arrest, you have to have firsthand knowledge. You have to have witnessed a crime be committed, right? And you've got to have reasonable belief, right, that you saw this thing happen, and you saw this individual do that thing, and you're the first-hand witness of it. So you witnessed this crime be committed. You can then attempt to make that citizen's arrest. That is basically the standard for a citizen's arrest in Colorado. Is that you've got to see the crime committed, and then you can arrest on that crime.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, what is your thought there?
Yeah, I think in Georgia it's similar to Ohio and even in California, where if it's a misdemeanor crime, you have to, even for a police officer, they have to observe that crime. It has to be committed in their presence for them to make an arrest on a misdemeanor crime, and that's for a citizen as well. For a felony crime, all you have to have is reasonable or probable suspicion that this person committed a felony crime. So there's a standard. There is a standard when we're talking about a citizen's arrest. So any sort of burglary, which is a structure, typically it's a occupied structure, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in Georgia it extends to unoccupied even structures. And so it doesn't have to be a sealed wall with walls and everything, right? Or home with walls or occupied. It just has to be a structure. So on a legal side of things, if we're just looking at, do they have the legal right to impose a citizen's arrest upon this person? If they believe that they've seen video of this person and they've recognized this person and he committed a burglary, which would be a felony, they would have the ability to effect a citizen's arrest. Now, whether they can use physical or deadly force to effect that arrest is different. That's a different. Hold on,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I'm sorry to put you on pause, but how you, even in the case of a law enforcement officer, like, you have to be able to articulate, right? You have to be able to articulate that reasonable suspicion of that crime having been committed, right? Like, you can't just make stuff up.
Right.
So how do you? And again, this is not necessarily specific to this instance. I'm just asking the question of, imagine a circumstance where you think where a felony has been committed, and you think, like, completely unrelated, like different times, even, like, this thing happened here. It's two different events, and then at some point later on, you see an individual that you think is the person that like, how do you articulate that?
Yeah, and so so you have to be able to articulate. However, if you say, I saw this video of this person breaking into, let's make it personal for all the listeners. You see a Ring video of somebody breaking into your home while you're gone, right? You look at it, you are away from your home, you get an alert, and you see this person leaving your home, right? Sure. They broke in again, they're leaving your home. You see them running down the street. Do you have the right to suspect them of burglary? Absolutely, right? Like, you have a video, you see the person, you recognize the person on the video.
Well, hold on right there. You just said, that's a key phrase you just used. You recognize the person.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
So
in other words, you had to have had decent enough video that you could actually make that identification.
Right. And so that would be the legal standard. Now, if your actions after that were justified or not in trying to affect that citizen's arrest. So if you identify this person, I don't know, based off of what these people said, they suspected that this was the same person. At least in the call, it sounds like they believed it was the same person. Whether or not it was, I don't know. And whether or not they just expanded it to, any black person must match the, I don't know what their motivation was.
And there we start to cross, into this is a racially motivated situation.
Exactly.
Which is not our intent of the podcast today, by the way, guys. Okay,
exactly.
So there's a tendency, even in the comments, to try to turn this into this racial thing. I am not going there, okay? I don't even care about that. I am trying to do our best to stick to the facts of what we know regarding this case. That's it, all right? And sorry to say, but race is not necessarily, when we're looking at the what happened, the what, okay? There's an important distinction between the what versus the why and the motivations. When we're doing our best today to look at what happened as best as we can tell based on the video that we have here that we're again about to step through in a little bit greater detail, and that's about it, because we have no idea the motivations other than we know a little bit about some apparent break-ins, burglaries, trespassing, something to that effect going on apparently in recent history in this neighborhood. And that these guys feel like there's a need to investigate that and go talk to this man. That's basically, what we know. We don't know for a fact that it's racially motivated, right? You can suspect that. You can believe it. I have my own suspicions and beliefs, but I'm trying to leave that out as much as possible as well here. I want that to be clear, okay? So, is that fair, Matthew?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep, okay. All right, so I appreciate a little mental exercise there with me as far as understanding the context and the realities and even maybe some of the legalities of affecting a citizen's arrest. Now, by the way, we have been from the beginning of the founding of this podcast pretty consistent on the idea of citizen's arrest, legal or not, don't do it. It's an unnecessary risk that you open yourself up to, and it is, if you are not intimately familiar with the nuances of the law, you run an incredible risk of doing something wrong somewhere along the process. Don't forget that police officers are trained for hours and hours and hours to make arrests, and how to do that correctly, properly, according to procedure, not violating rights, not breaking the law. And they still make mistakes, even though they've been through classes training that very topic. I've been through arrest control courses numerous times. So to think that plain Joe, Jane citizens are going to, go make some citizen's arrest and know what the crap they're doing, it's a risky play. Mm-hmm. So I strongly discourage citizen's arrest. Strongly. I can't say that enough. Just as we discourage the idea of investigating and chasing and involving yourself in situations that you don't have to. I'm not saying that you can't, right? There's plenty of times where it's permissible under the law to do these various things that we're implying and that we're talking about here. But just because you can does not mean you should. And just because you can, feel free. That's up to you. But my advice to you, and this is not legal advice, this is not advice from an attorney, this is simply Riley talking, brother to brother, mano a mano, or brother to sister, whatever, and saying, if you want the best chance of avoiding prison time, of avoiding having to pull a trigger, of avoiding having to kill somebody, and I promise you all of those things come with crappy consequences that nobody should want, then you avoid involving yourself in situations you don't need to involve yourself in.
And you're 100% right. And we cover this all the time on the podcast. Like every single time we cover the should you do something, is it legal? And like we're not addressing the legality of this. And the reason, I'm trying to respond to some of the comments here about, the video shows that he was murdered and things like that. I'm trying to separate it out. And the reason why I said I'm trying to look at it from different views, is that we have a lot of listeners that believe they will affect a citizen's arrest on somebody stealing something from their car, or if I see this, I'm going to act in this person's a thug, and if they break into my house, they're not leaving unless they're in a body bag, and they have this mentality. So what I'm trying to do is say, look, this video is pretty damning, I believe, for these people who shot Ahmaud. I think it's a bad shoot. Okay, I think it's bad for them. However, I'm trying to explain the reason why, even in a video that shows this, we can say that it was racially motivated. We can say that they murdered him, but and it may come out that they are convicted of they're indicted and convicted of crime. That's probably what's going to happen. Even if it doesn't, they're bankrupt. Right, they're going to be bankrupt defending themselves, and their reputation and livelihood.
And I guarantee you, they're going to be sued by the family of this young man.
So if you just if you take that off and you put it off to the side, and we just look at the video itself, and we say, what is the motivation behind these guys? It's really the same motivation as the person who sees somebody breaking into their car and goes out there and confronts them with the firearm. It's the same motivation, whether or not it's a racially motivated, or you are motivated because that person is a criminal and you don't like criminals. Whatever it is, we have to look at it and say, this could be, you could end up in a situation like this very easily, where you go out and you're not chasing after this person in your vehicle, but you're chasing after them because they stole something out of your car, and then they turn around and you have a firearm on you and they try to disarm you. Now, what are you going to do? And we bring this up all the time, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, we don't have a video of it, and we don't have them pursuing them in a vehicle, but it's the same motivation. So all I'm saying is that we need to look at the motivations inside, and kind of look at it from both points of view, so we can say, this is a very bad place to be. This is a very bad place to be when you're trying to effect a citizen's arrest on somebody who is unarmed, and you have a firearm in your hand, and you're not familiar with the person, or exactly sure if this is a person who committed a violent criminal act, right? Mm-hmm. That's all. That's really what I'm trying to drive at, not trying to say, hey, this person's racially motivated, or this person isn't. It very well, they could be 100% racially motivated, but I'm trying to take that out so we can look at it more as their actions, rather than the surface layer mm-hmm. of this is a racially motivated event.
And to someone's point here in the comments, talking about it doesn't matter if race was a factor or not, because the actions they did still don't seem justified to me. So my personal, so I'm going to be careful. You mentioned it too. You gave your opinion, Matthew. I will mm-hmm. offer my opinion, but I'm very cautious in doing this. I actually was going to try to stay away from this, but I also feel like this is not a good shoot from what we see and what we know. Now, we're going to go through this a little bit more carefully, and I'll point out some things why that leads me to that conclusion. And by the way, it's not a final conclusion. This is where I am at right now. What this tells me is that this has to be investigated. And I know it's already gone through a couple of DAs because the first two had to recuse themselves because they knew know Gregory McMichael, the father, the 64-year-old. He's actually retired not that long ago from being a former investigator in the DA's office, and also having been a police officer before that as well. Which that further complicates this case, and also provides some additional context that this guy was, living the glory days. Like, hey, I was a cop. And he was still he was playing the role of a cop. Is kind of part of what I see happening here. Now, all right, let's. A whole lot of spinning going on with this podcast, Dunnies, on YouTube. We're speaking. I'm trying to stay as fact based as possible. That's what this is. Okay, you can think what it is, but I'm not trying to spin a dang thing. We're talking about what we know, and acknowledging there's things we don't know, and that could all change in the future as well. All right, let's step through this. In the video, we see Ahmaud. He's running along the left side of the road, near the shoulder on the left side, in fact. Right about here at this moment, And this is specifically timestamp wise, and I'll make sure that the actual link to the YouTube video where I pulled this version of the video from. I'll make sure that link is in the show notes of the episode as well. But this is 9 seconds in. Okay, we actually see him begin to start moving a little bit to the right. He starts crossing more into the center of that left lane. Right here, I noticed, Matthew, it's very subtle, but I've watched this a gazillion times now. He actually starts moving more straight towards, as down the center of that lane. And then, again, he starts to turn. And he starts to turn as the cameraman turns his camera. The cameraman does a lousy job, a couple of points here. So right as the camera starts to turn, we see Ahmaud's body begin to also turn, and he starts going to the right. Cameraman does a terrible job, goes away from the important stuff. When we come back, we see Ahmaud he has crossed over the left, or over that yellow line. So now he's into the right lane. So remember, during this brief, and this is all of it's 2, 3, 4, okay, maybe 4 seconds max. No, it's less than that because it was 9 seconds so it's 11 seconds to about 13 seconds is where we lose sight of the situation. And in those 2 seconds, we see that Ahmaud has gone from about the center of the left lane to now having crossed the yellow line into the right lane. And at this point, he is actually already starting to turn back yet again to the left. We see the way his body is tilted and leaning towards the left, and the angle that he is traversing, and the way those feet cross there. He actually just stepped right on the yellow line. Cameraman does a lousy job, dips down a little bit. We see Ahmaud's left foot now crossed over to the left side of the yellow line, and he is leaning back the other way now. So what is he doing? He's zigzagging. This is the sign of somebody that's trying. He sees, what does he see in the street? So let's talk about what we see here now. We see a white pickup truck in the right lane. There's a man in the back of it. It's believed to be the father, Gregory McMichael. All right. Pickup truck stopped in the right lane. Dude in the back of it. That dude, by the way, has a handgun, and he's got a phone, I believe, at this point already up to his ear, because we see it again here in just a few seconds. We see where he's got a phone up to his ear. Not super clearly, but I'm based on body language, I'm 99% certain that's what's going on. And then in the left lane, we see Travis McMichael, the son. He is standing in the middle of the lane. And we know based on statements that it's not, and assumed, because there's not a lot of time here that transpires from this point to later points in the video, it's assumed that Travis is standing there in the road with his shotgun out in the open, holding it. Here's what I perceive. Ahmaud running and zigzagging. He's going, what in the crap do these guys want with me? And he's trying to decide, where do I go? How do I go? Right? He's zigzagging back and forth. Okay, can I shake this guy? What he probably sees is a overweight 34-year-old man with a shotgun, and he thinks, let's go right, let's go left, let's go right again. Let's see if I can shake this guy and find a way to get around and get out of this situation.
I agree completely.
Yep. I think the body language speaks for itself in this regard. Okay, so now at this point we see him stepping back over the yellow line, and he now crosses over to the passenger side of the truck. Again, the cameraman sucks. And by the way, the cameraman, this has been a point that's been brought up, is believed to be this third person involved in this chase. So he's in his vehicle, and he's coming up behind Ahmaud. So again, reasonable to kind of assume that hey, whether he knew this guy was also involved in chasing him, or if he just was like, I don't know what this other guy in this other car is all about, and you're not going to be inclined to go back the other way because you're also, again, kind of blocked in. You're blocked in by a pickup truck in the right lane, a dude with a shotgun in the left lane, and a vehicle, by the way, that is crossing over the line, which seems to also indicate that this is not just an innocent... I mean, I want to be careful how I phrase this stuff. Again, there's a lot of stuff we don't know, but this is not just like a neighborly person, someone in the neighborhood is just trying to drive down the street and comes upon the situation. Like, the fact they're actually kind of crossing back and forth, which we see, I think, throughout the video, they're kind of wandering down the road a little bit as well. I think that implies that they're kind of trying to hem this guy in, because what did the father and son say? They wanted to talk to Ahmaud. All right, whatever that means. Nice mailboxes there. Thank you, cameraman, for that. So after the camera again pans back to where the important stuff is, at this point we see Ahmaud is already up alongside and beginning to pass the passenger side of the white pickup truck. Okay. So again, he has zigged right, zigged left, zigged right, and is now going up the passenger side and he swung a little bit wide. Again, that's indicative that he was, kind of taking evasive maneuvers as he is going about running along here. All right, so at this point, Matthew and I discussing this whole situation. This was kind of a comment I made, and I think Matthew agreed that if Ahmaud was truly a burglary suspect, like if he had done whatever crime, and he's recognizing that fact and suspecting that these guys are trying to chase him down because he's they know he's the perpetrator of that crime. What do you Matthew, you were a cop, like on the street chasing people down. Like, what does a chase typically look like when a criminal is trying to get away from police?
Yeah, well, he's trying to avoid, at least in my eyes, Ahmaud's trying to avoid these people. However, he's not going to the point where he's jumping into people's backyards. He's jumping fences trying to get away from being arrested. He's trying to get away from these people because they have firearms and they're chasing after him, which I think if any one of us were caught without a firearm or we weren't armed and we saw people chasing after us with firearms, we would try to get away from them, right? But not in a way where we're jumping fences in people's yards or stealing cars to try to get out of from the scene, right? So this, if I'm just looking at it, I'm putting myself in his shoes at this point. It kind of, from my point of view, it looks like he's trying to avoid, but he's not. At a certain point, he turns the corner, and like I said, Travis closes that distance, and he says, "This guy is armed. I'm not, and I have to disarm this guy, or I have to take care of this weapon because this guy's going to shoot me." And I think that this is the point where I'm trying to get into the listeners. Tie it to the listeners is if this is the point where you see somebody with the shotgun and maybe it's pointed at you. We can't really tell from the video if it's pointed at Ahmaud or not, but this is the point where somebody has a firearm. They've chased you down in a truck. Mm-hmm. They're trying to block your path of escape. And if you had a firearm, wouldn't Ahmaud totally be justified in using deadly force? Of course, right?
Right.
Of course.
And that is absolutely a fair point to make, Matthew, because you're just a dude out for a jog, minding your own business, and you come upon people that are armed and being very. But keep in mind, at the point where this video is, at this moment, they've already attempted to stop him. And have chased him around, and they've had to double back, right, to try to catch up with him again. So, put anybody in this person's shoes, in Ahmaud's shoes, and go, what would you do? And this is why we're talking about this from a variety of angles here. But this one thing I think is extremely relevant. What if you're the guy that's just out for a jog, black or white? I don't care what race you are. This something could happen to just about anybody. I mean, somebody's gonna take offense at that, me saying that, but just put all your own feelings and racial whatever aside at this point. Just imagine that anybody's in these shoes. That's all I'm concerned with at this point. How would you respond? And you come upon a situation where it's very apparent dudes with guns are trying to stop you. How do you read that situation? How do you respond?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I would take it as a deadly threat towards the nature of that gun being present, being at the ready, low ready, whatever, doesn't matter. And a dude telling me to stop as he's got a gun in his hands, I'm going to read that as a very aggressive threat against me. And the one thing we know for a fact is that Ahmaud was not, in fact, armed with anything. That actually should be no surprise to anybody at this point. And actually, it's probably a travesty that he was not. Because if this was me, I go for runs and I carry my gun with me. Okay? Because if this was me, there's a high probability this would have, assuming I could not escape, because that would be my first attempt or thing that I would do would be to try to avoid the situation, of course. But if I got to where I felt like I was pinned in and couldn't escape, then there's a high probability I would take what they were doing as a deadly threat, and I would be drawing and using my gun. That's where this takes me to, mentally speaking.
Yeah, and it might not, I mean, think about this. It might not be you running. Maybe, I mean, how many people get involved in road rage incidents, right? I see it all the time. So a motorcycle gets cut off, and then the motorcyclist rides up and smashes the side view mirror, right? Or vice versa. And people get, so it's that same like pursuit mentality where all of a sudden this turns into a deadly force situation because you say, hey buddy, I got my firearm, you better back off, and you draw a firearm. Well, if you're not legally justified to shoot this person and you draw a firearm, they are going to perceive you as a deadly threat, and they have every justification and legal justification to use deadly force against you. So it's, taking this, and this is kind of why I'm trying to get through the racial stuff and put it to the side in the motivations of these people, because I'm just trying to look at this as an incident and say, where are these points, what could have gone, or what caused this to go wrong? Where could we correct this? And why can this type of situation happen, even if you're not a racist, right? Like, you could end up in a road rage situation where you're trying to track somebody down or whatever, or you get into a fight with somebody over a parking space in a parking lot, and it's not racially motivated. So that's why I'm just trying to, parse through all the surface layer stuff and preach to the choir as far as like, yes, these guys are racist. We should, they should be arrested in this. I'm putting that aside and saying, how can this apply to everyday life for a concealed carrier? And how could you, if your motivations are not racially motivated, but even just, evil of heart, like, I'm not going to let this person steal my stuff, and I'm going to pursue this person because they stole my stuff and I worked hard for that. And I see it all the time with people, and I'm just trying to combine these two and say, you could find yourself in a situation where you are in a situation where you have to use force, or you end up using force, and whether or not you are racially motivated, whether or not whatever your motivations are, people, you're putting your fate in the hands of district attorneys and juries and lawyers, and that's just not where you want to be. So that's kind of where I was kind of veering with the conversation.
Yep. All right. So, again, just trying to stick to what we know and what we can see. All right. And drawing lessons out from it. What would you do? This is a very valid question. If you're in this situation, place yourself in this situation, in these shoes. How would you handle the situation? All right. And by the way, it's really easy to look back and go, well, I would have done this, and because Ahmaud didn't do that, well, too bad for him. Or, guys, we don't always know how we're going to respond or what we're going to do in a similar situation. We don't. But this is a great opportunity. This is a great example to use as kind of that mental exercise to go, wow, I had never, because you couldn't dream this up in a million years, right? Probably Ahmaud couldn't even dream this up in a million years. He probably had no idea what was taking place or why it was taking place. All right, that's a bit of an assumption, but that's what I think. That's what I believe to be true. So it's easy to say, I would have done this. I would have just turned and gone the other way, or I would have done that, or whatever. But what I see here is a man that's just out for a run, and he's just running down the street, and he zigzags to try to avoid these strange dudes that are blocking the street. Matthew, you touched on it a moment ago, right? When you have bad guys, criminals, whatever, running away from you, they do everything they can to make it as difficult as possible for you to catch them. Running through people's yards, jumping fences, and what I see here, and stepping through the video, I've been kind of, we got stopped kind of at this point, but look here to the right. I see a lot of open yards, trees, bushes, and shrubbery, a lot of open space, right? Now you could say, well, why didn't he just take off the road and go to the right or go to the left or try to escape or evade that way?
Right.
That's a valid, that's why this is a valid question to ask. Like, what would you do in this situation?
And that's the thing. I mean, and so if you put yourself in this person's shoes, you don't know what's going through their mind. But let's say he says, if these people are trying to track me down, they're chasing me down in two different vehicles, right? And he says, if I run towards a home, maybe they think maybe those people are going to come out and want to shoot me too. Like maybe all these people are trying to kill me, right? Like maybe he's in that mindset where he doesn't know where to run and he's just trying to get away from these people, stay on the street so nobody says, hey, he's trying to break into a home or he's trying to break into a car or anything like that. And he's saying, I don't want anything to do with any of these yards. I don't want to go in their home, any of these homes. So yeah, well, while we might say I would have ran to this home, or that might be an option, right? It might have been an option and maybe that would have helped, but maybe it wouldn't have. And in his mindset, you don't know what he was thinking. And so you have to kind of look at all the possible things that might have been going through his mind.
Yep. And by the way, to the dude saying something about he's running around in Timberland boots, BS on that. Those do not look like boots. Sorry. Get out of here. Okay, so here, and this was kind of my point, is what this shows me is that a criminal doesn't even take a second thought about, like, they will do everything they can for self-preservation to get away from being, they will evade capture, and the logical choice there would be completely make it as difficult as possible for these guys to pursue you, to catch you, whatever, and you go a different way. The fact that he stays committed that, hey guys, I'm just a dude out for a run, and stays committed to that road, like, to me that does not show evasion. I mean, other than he's trying to get around this roadblock.
Right.
All right. So I know that we're reading in between the lines a little bit. I know the point is we're trying to stay fact-based, but just looking at what we see, all right, and looking at body language, that's what it looks like to me. All right. Now, stepping forward, again, we talked about he goes up along the passenger side of the vehicle, kind of swings out a little bit wide, and then we lose sight of him a little bit, and then right about here is when the first shot is fired. And where do we see? We've lost sight of Travis for a time. Where do we see him at the moment the shot's fired? He's up at basically the front left of the. He's basically at the bumper of the vehicle because he stepped in front of it. We can see that his leg has gone in front of it. So Travis is in front of the vehicle. We can also see where the shadow is of the vehicle is in relation to the shadows from the feet of the individuals. This is probably, I'd guess, 5-6 feet in front of the truck. Roughly speaking, because we actually can see the head of the shadow of Travis, and it's nowhere near. I mean, this is 1 o'clock, so it's midday, right? So the shot's fired about here, and which is just where we just start to see Travis come back into the frame, and we know he's in front of the truck. At this point, Ahmaud has just he's run up the side of the truck and started crossing in front of it, and I think right at this point he's like, wow, there's no escaping this dude. This dude's staying with me. And he's got the shotgun, and at this point, for whatever reason, he goes hands-on. I think it was, again, the shot, I think, is fired before there's any physical contact. I think Ahmaud did, whether it was Ahmaud or Travis, some distance was closed between these two guys. Travis fires a shot. At that point, Ahmaud goes hands-on. He gets his hands on the gun. You see right there, he's pushing the muzzle down and away. That's good. Good job. That's a good thing to do if you're going to try to defend yourself against a gun. And now we see, center of gravity is going down low. Guys are, fighting down low. This is a tussle, and it's a fight over the gun. Right there, we do see that it looks like Travis manages to break the muzzle away. It comes over to the left. Boom, right there. At this point, Travis probably realizes, shoot, he's able to break that gun from me. I'm losing this fight. So Ahmaud starts going to physical blows. Looks like a punch right there. Something on the back. We see his arm cock back here. Probably another blow. Okay. And we lose sight of them. And, I forgot. And you mentioned it, Matthew, but we see a plume of smoke right there come out from the left edge of the frame and go to the right. That's the second shot. That's the moment of the second shot. And I agree with you that seeing the blast, the smoke like we do, probably did not, at least it didn't significantly hit Ahmaud. And now again they're off frame. Now I'm going to go back a little bit here. I want you to look a little bit more closely at what the dad is doing. And right here, he just got done putting his phone down. That's where the phone is up to his ear. That's what he's doing. That's what that body language says right there.
Mm-hmm.
Phone's at the ear. He's on the 911 call. All right. Puts phone down. He's got a handgun in his right hand. He now begins, I don't know exactly what he's doing with the handgun, but he looks down at it. He does something with two hands on it as if he's getting it ready. And now the handgun starts coming up, but he does not fire. He does not use it. Okay, right around that time, that second shot's fired. And then we see them come back onto the frame. That's actually Travis we see first. So he's now closer to the pickup truck. And Ahmaud is to the left of him. So they have switched positions. They have swung around, and which is probably a necessity on Ahmaud's part to, again, keep in mind where the muzzle went, where we last saw it of the shotgun. So Ahmaud's got around to where he's able to grab part of that shotgun. I will just make note that I don't know for a fact, it could be graphics or something on the front of this T-shirt that Ahmaud's wearing, but I believe we are seeing actually blood. I know that's pretty gruesome and gory and sad, but as far as I don't necessarily like seeing this stuff, but I think that's what we're seeing there. Okay, so he has been injured at some point through those first two shots, and again he continues to go to blows to the head as he's got one hand on the muzzle of the shotgun. He probably would have been far better off just looking at the tactics of this and the technique of his fighting to get both hands on that shotgun and really try to take control of it, because one hand on that shotgun when the other guy has got two hands is not going. That's going to be a losing battle all day long. You might think you can knock him out, but this Travis fellow looks like he's a pretty robust guy, and so they continue to struggle. Ahmaud actually removes the left hand from the shotgun right there. He basically just loses control of the situation, and the final blast is actually we just missed it. It was right there, and it actually comes through his back. Ouch. And then the fight is over. He's got nothing left in him. Travis backs away, and down goes Ahmaud. Mm-hmm. That's it. Okay, so just kind of that whole exercise is meant to look at the kind of the tactics of it, kind of the play-by-play as far as how it went down, the shots that were fired. Ahmaud didn't look like a terrible, like he was a fit dude, but I don't think he was a trained fighter from what I could see. I mean, because there's just so many things he could have done from like a fighting perspective that he didn't do. To me it says this kid's he's not a fighter. He's not an MMA, or he's not a boxer. He's not into wrestling necessarily. He just was doing the best he could in that moment. Again, we don't understand all the motivations, everything behind it. We see what we see, and it comes back to, and I'm going to go ahead and kill the shared video at this point because we need to start wrapping it up. An hour and plus into the episode now at this point. It comes down to, again, what we see and what we know as of this point does not look real promising, because you have an unarmed individual approaching two men that are armed, who is hemmed in, fenced in, boxed in by two vehicles and a third person out on his feet with a shotgun in hand. I think it from there it just goes sideways real fast. Regardless of anything that Ahmaud had done, right? Let's back up. Even if Ahmaud had been the one that had been breaking into homes or breaking into this construction site or whatever it was, even if, all right, the way this played out to where shots got fired is still not real pretty. It's not good. It doesn't look justifiable, right? These guys basically went what I call looking for trouble. Whether they intended to, whether they meant to, whether they thought it would go that way, that's irrelevant. When you take yourself out of your domicile, you take your gun, and you go out there on the street and you try to chase somebody down that you think committed a crime, and then you end up pulling the trigger, whether for, like you basically, you opened the door for that opportunity to occur. It would have been far better to sit tight, right? Again, that's an analysis that's irrelevant of who's in the right or who's in the wrong. It's acknowledging that when we place ourselves in situations and in altercations that we don't need to place ourselves into, right? I'm not saying you can't in a lot of contexts. I'm just saying that just because you can, does that mean you should? And I would argue that you should not. If you care about avoiding legal hassle and potential threat to life, because nothing bad happens to anybody here if they stay at home. Place the 911 call, report it, have the cops sent out. Maybe they run into Ahmaud. Maybe they ask Ahmaud questions, and Ahmaud says, I'm just going for a run here, guys, and I live down the street, right? And they check him out, and they go, okay, cool, man. See you later. But that's probably what it would amount to. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to add to that other than, we cover it all the time, and as we went through this, and we took a long time to go through this, and I understand that there are probably people that logged in halfway through and heard certain parts of it and didn't hear the whole thing. And as I'm going through some of the comments, Katie says this is a commentary is gross. She came across it. She's seeing victim blaming. I'd challenge you, Katie, to find one line where we blamed the victim, and we're not. I would ask you to find that. We're not here to blame anyone. We're not assessing blame, and that was not what our motivation was to begin with. The motivation of this is to get it out there and talk in a way about this incident that kind of sifts through all the stuff that you're seeing. Look, if you want to have a conversation about the racial motivations and racist behaviors and things like that, that's a conversation to have. But we're trying to focus on this incident and see what we can learn from it, and not just go to the base level of, hey, this is racist, this guy's a murderer, why isn't he charged? There have been two, I believe, district attorneys that have already recused themselves, and so I'll go out on a limb, okay, and I'll give you my opinion. I believe that these people will be indicted and they will be charged and convicted. I believe that, okay. That's my opinion. I'm not an attorney, whatever. That's my opinion. But I'm trying to put that off to the side and present it in a way where we can kind of discuss this and get it out in the open and talk about, hey, what are some things that we can avoid? How can we avoid these types of situations and not find ourselves forced into a situation where we have to use our firearm because somebody perceives us as a threat because we challenge them over them stealing something from their car or breaking into a vehicle or cutting them off or whatever it might be. So, I hope that's what you got out of it. And so, I guess I can't separate it because I'm white and my perspective is uninformed. That's your opinion, Katie, and we all have our opinions, right? So I'm sorry that you feel that way, but it's not the facts. So.
And of course, you have two white guys, commenting about this on here, so everybody assumes it's racially motivated or based as far as our opinions, and white privilege and blah blah blah. Couldn't care less. The funny thing is, I actually had this conversation with somebody online earlier today that I actually live in an extremely racially diverse neighborhood. There's none of my immediate neighbors are white, none. I mean, in my neighborhood, we got black people, white people, Asians, Hispanics, Filipinos. It honestly couldn't be a more diverse neighborhood. And I talk to all my neighbors. We're all friendly. We're cool. Nobody cares who and I realize it's not true for all neighborhoods. I realize there are legit racial problems in various locations across this country, and frankly, I think those are there's definitely pockets and locations where it's a lot more of an issue and a lot more prevalent. At the same time, I'll throw out there, as a white guy that used to work in the construction industry, that used to have to go all kinds of places across the Denver metro area, I've been in neighborhoods where I was the only white dude, and it was uncomfortable for sure. Just like I'm sure being a white guy or a black guy in a white guy's neighborhood feels uncomfortable. I'm not saying that fixes anything that's happened in the past, racially speaking, slavery, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I'm just pointing out that race is what it is. But me personally, couldn't give a crap what color this dude was. We're looking at a video. If that was a white guy running down the street and the same thing played out, I would have analyzed it exactly the same way. Would have said, he did this, he zigzagged that way, he did that, he did not do this thing, and then he got shot. That's what I would have said. And I would still say there's something wrong here, and it deserves to be investigated. And I hope it is thoroughly investigated. And I would also not be surprised to see charges filed, people arrested, and a trial take place. There you go. Many of you are going to disagree with us on both sides. We've had people saying you guys are too soft in your analysis. This is, you guys, people are going to disagree with us on all sides of this. Couldn't care less. I'm just simply tackling an issue that we see that our listeners have asked us to tackle, and do our little analysis and play by play as simply and as accurately based on what we see and what we know to be the facts as best as we can. That's it. And as more facts come out, we'll see how it all sorts out in the end. I would caution. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention we did play the 911 call. So if you missed that, it's earlier in the episode, but we did play it and talked about that as well.
Yep. So there you go. That's I think at this point we got to let it rest here and let the debate rage online. Carry on, folks. Our job and our goal here at concealedcarry.com and with the Concealed Carry podcast is provide the best concealed carry, self-defense, and gun-related information and education possible. My goal is for people that carry guns for personal defense to do so responsibly and safely, and to know how to use them in a similar fashion, responsibly and correctly and accurately, both legally and also literally accurately. As far as if they got to take shots, by golly, I hope the shots hit what they intend to hit. That's our goal. That's our job. That's what we do at concealedcarry.com. And so if you are interested in increasing your ability, your knowledge, your understanding about concealed carry and self-defense and gun carrying related matters, then I hope that you'll consider coming to our site and checking out all of our dozens of free resources. And if you care to throw a little money our way, there's lots of really great paid resources as well. And that's, I'm blessed to do the job that I do. Happy to do it, and I love teaching and educating people about this stuff. So with that, we're going to get out of here and wish everybody the best that they can be. I sincerely hope. I never like seeing people get shot or killed. I don't like it at all. I don't. But I recognize that this is these are the kind of things that happen in life, and it is what it is. So what can we learn from it? I'd say based on what I saw today, do everything in your power to avoid conflict. And that goes on both sides, right? That means you run to the right, or you run to the left, you get the heck out of there. You do whatever it takes. Or if you're the McMichaels, dad and son, you don't go out there chasing people down with guns in hand. Simple as that. Like this I'm not saying that Ahmaud did anything wrong. What I'm saying is that's the lesson learned, right? I wish Ahmaud could go back and be like, man, I could have done this. I should have done that. I should, because no matter what, every self-defense situation, there's multiple ways. There's different decision points where we could do something different. There's always something that could go better, because self-defense shootings are messy. by nature of what's taking place, people being shot, people being killed, people being attacked, people being robbed, those situations are messy. So there's always ways to improve. And the value for us is that there's ways we can look at and go, what can I get out of this? What can I learn? How can I avoid that happening to me? With that, we're going to sign on out of here and let you guys know to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care. And of course, I don't even know if I should say anymore. But, this was not a self-defense shooting, Katie. No, what I said is that our job is to talk about self-defense stuff. Most of what we talk about is self-defense. I'm not saying that what these guys did was self-defense. Anyway, victim blaming. Nah. Katie, I sincerely wish you the best and hope that you take steps to make sure you don't become a victim and that you get the education and the tools that you need to make sure that never happens. That's like probably one of the biggest things I'm passionate about is I hate seeing people become victims. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. And those of you that are with us still and that support us, we appreciate all of you. And to those of you that appreciate the conversation, thank you so much. So until next time, take care. Be safe out there. We'll see you later.